Welcome to Policy on Demand. I'm Sindhu Blume.
And I'm Scott McCandless. It's the week of February 19th, and this is your Monday briefing. Both the House and Senate are observing a President's Day recess this week, with the Senate expected to return on February 26th and the House on February 28th. Congress will be seeking agreement on a spending bill ahead of upcoming March 1st and March 8th deadlines.
And in addition to the tax package, companies are also focused on the OECD's two-pillar initiative. To find out the latest developments related to Pillars 1 and 2, we are so pleased to be joined by Pam Olson. Pam, welcome.
Hello, good to see you both.
So Pam, earlier today, the OECD released a report setting forth rules to simplify transfer pricing methods for certain transactions under Amount B of Pillar 1. What's the significance of this report?
The significance is that the OECD is continuing to make progress on the implementation of Pillar 1. The most noteworthy thing, perhaps, in the report is that the introduction is full of a number of reservations by India, which is a very important participant in this process. So it suggests that there's still some rough road ahead on getting to agreement on Amount B. But the U.S. has said recently that getting Amount B done as part of Pillar 1 is critical to the U.S.'s participation.
Pam, we have a group of countries that includes the United States, Austria, France, Italy, Spain, and the United Kingdom that have agreed to extend through June 30th, 2024 and October 2021 political agreement on the transition from existing digital services taxes, or DSTs, to Pillar 1. What are the implications of this agreement?
Well, it's important that the Treasury Department did get this extended for a few more months to allow for the completion of Pillar 1. It was a little bit disconcerting for companies who see Pillar 1 as a way out of DSTs to have the agreement expire at the end of 2023. Now, it did expire at the end of 2023 because the expectation was that the agreement would be completed by the end of 2023 and ready for signature, and it, of course, isn't. It's now hope to be ready for signature by probably in June. So it was important to get this agreement out there on an extended basis to line up with the expected completion and ready for signature of Pillar 1. Now, for those who are Pillar 1 skeptics, it seems clear that there's still a lot of things to be ironed out before Pillar 1 could move forward on a global basis. The biggest problem, of course, is that the U.S. Doesn't seem likely to embrace it, at least at this point. There's no path forward to get through the Senate, which is what it would have to do in order to become the law of the land here in the U.S. And without it becoming the law of the land here in the U.S., I guess I should add that there's no way for Pillar 1 to be operational because it does depend on the participation of the U.S. for it to go forward.
Pam, could you talk about the potential expiration of the World Trade Organization's 1998 moratorium on custom duties on digital trade?
Yeah, so we have had since 1998 a moratorium on the imposition of customs duties on electronic commerce. And that's been something that the U.S. has been a supporter of, both Democratic and Republican administrations, for a number of years. It encountered some difficulties in the last renewal of the moratorium a couple of years ago. It's encountering more difficulties now. And I think of great concern to a lot of U.S. companies and to both Republicans and Democrats in Congress is that this administration seems to be less committed than administrations have been in the past to the extension of the moratorium. And they're also provided for changes in the position of the United States on data localization. And that causes concerns on the part of companies as well, because if the data localization rules were to go away, the restrictions on data localization were to go away, then it would open the door for governments to require more data localization, which would lead to, or at least could lead to, there being a requirement that companies locate some of their equipment, investments, personnel, et cetera, in jurisdictions around the globe, and that could lead to the erosion of investment in the U.S. and jobs in the U.S. Into those other countries. In some ways, it almost looks like it would help countries achieve what they have wanted, which is to have more of the operations of digital companies occurring in their countries.
And Pam, a final question, perhaps pivoting to Pillar 2. What further OECD guidance around Pillar 2 might we expect to see in the next few weeks or even months? And what steps should companies be taking to prepare for implementation of Pillar 2?
So we are expecting some more guidance on various aspects of Pillar 2. The item that I think is probably next up is something on deferred taxes. And the OECD keeps saying that they plan to simplify the rules. They're working to simplify the rules. But as Pat Brown observed last week in Week in Review, every time the OECD says it's going to simplify something, we seem to end up with something that's more complicated. So that's the next thing that's going to come up. We're expecting some further guidance on the push down of taxes imposed by headquarters jurisdictions to CFCs. So those are the two things that we're waiting on. Companies at this point should be, if they're operating in jurisdictions that have already implemented Pillar 2, they should be well on their way to figuring out how they're going to be complying with it. They're going to be reporting things on tax returns and so forth in the not too distant future. And so it's very important for companies at this point to be well along in their implementation process.
Pam, thank you as always for your many insights. We appreciate you being with us.
You're welcome. It's great to see you both.
And for our viewers, you'll find in the email for this episode links to the latest Week in Review with Pat Brown. And stay tuned for another Week in Review coming up this Friday.
And the latest episode of Election Watch with Rohit Kumar and Janice Mace is out. That conversation is linked in the description of this episode as well. And we appreciate you spending this time with us, and we'll see you next time. Take care.